The first time I did tantric eye gazing, her face started changing right in front of me. And what I saw completely changed how I connected with my partner. And it turns out there's real science behind why this happens. So, in this video, I will show you why tantric eye gazing changes her face and exactly how to experience it yourself and how it can deepen your intimate relationship. So, let me start with what actually happens. When I first started practicing tantric eye gazing with my partner, something would happen that I really wasn't expecting. After just a few minutes of surrendering into the gaze, her face would start to shift. And I don't mean in a subtle way, her features would actually start to morph. Sometimes she would look decades older, sometimes younger, sometimes like a completely different person. Almost like she was shape shifting right in front of me. And the closest thing that I can compare to is taking psychedelic drugs, except there's no substance involved here. It's just you, her, and the gaze. And honestly, the first few times it happened, it freaked me out. I didn't quite understand what I was seeing, and my instinct was to pull away. But I stayed with it. And once I stopped resisting it and leaned into what was happening, it shifted into something completely different, something beautiful. I started to see past the surface, past the personality of her. People say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, right? And I always thought that was just a saying, but when you experience this, you realize it's literally true. What happened was what Tantra calls transfiguration, which just means seeing the divine feminine or the goddess coming through her physical body. And my partner experiences the same thing. She starts to see God or the divine masculine coming through me. And it's literally one of the most profound experiences you can have with a partner. And this isn't just my experience. Gazing practices have been part of Tantra for thousands of years. And eye gazing with a partner is one of the most powerful forms of gazing. It is a gateway into transfiguration, into seeing the divine in the person in front of you. But most people hear this and think it's hallucination or their eyes are playing a trick on them, but it's not. And there's actually science that proves it. In a study at the University of Urbino, people gazed into each other's eyes under dim lights, and after less than a minute, nearly all of them started seeing faces morphing, distorting, transforming into something completely different. And the scientific explanation for that is something called the Toxler fading. When you stare at the same face long enough, your visual neurons quiet down, features starts to fade, and your brain fills in the gaps on its own. But here's the part that I find interesting. So science looks at this and sees a visual glitch. But Tantra, on the other hand, they see it as the brain finally getting out of the way. So when you stop seeing the surface, the personality, the physical features, right? What comes through instead is what was always underneath, and that is transfiguration. And in tantric tradition, the heart center and the eyes are connected through a subtle energy channel. So when you gaze with real presence and love, you're not just looking, you're channeling energy through your eyes into your partner. That's why it's so much more than a visual trick. It's actually an energetic exchange between you two, but to actually experience how eye gazing changes her face, you need to know how to do it the right way. So here's exactly how to practice tantric eye gazing. First, you want to set up the space. You can start by dimming the lights, not too dark and not too bright, just soft enough that your eyes can relax. Candles work perfectly for this, and you can put on some music in the background if you want to. Then sit face to face with your partner, holding hands, close enough that your knees are touching. And before you start, you don't want to rush into it. It's better to settle down, so close your eyes and take a few deep breaths together. Let everything from the day settle, become present, and when you're ready, open your eyes and meet each other's gaze. Now, and this is important, you want to focus on her left eye, and she will focus on your left eye, which in Tantra is the receptive side. And don't jump in between eyes, because that's what we normally do in a conversation, and it keeps everything on the surface. Staying on one eye is what gets you deeper. And remember, this is not a staring contest. So you can blink normally, don't worry about it. Now, at this stage, this is where a lot of guys go wrong. They try to dive straight into it with a deep, intense stare, and without realizing it, they end up looking angry, and that is how it gets awkward or forced. So instead, start by just looking at her iris. That is the colored part of her eye, and just notice the details, the texture, the pattern, and let yourself appreciate how intricate and beautiful it actually is when you really look. This relaxes you into the gaze naturally instead of forcing intensity. And then the next stage, when you feel yourself settling in, let yourself drift into the dark pupil, the black center. This is where the shift happens. You're no longer looking at the surface. You're looking into her soul, so to speak. Just stay there and breathe. And if your mind starts to wander or you feel yourself zoning out, there is a technique that I teach called meditating on her face. And here's how you do it. Slowly start to scan from her forehead to her left eye, to the right eye, to the left cheek, to the right cheek, the nose, chin, and then back to the forehead. Repeat this cycle until you feel locked in again, and then settle back into the left eye. And if you want to take this practice even deeper, start syncing your breath with hers. So the next time she breathes in, breathe in with her. And you don't need to announce this or coordinate it. Just pay attention to her breathing and fall into the same rhythm. This naturally pulls you both into the same state. Now, here's what to expect. The first minute or two might feel uncomfortable, maybe even funny, and that is completely normal. I totally get it, because I'm from Sweden, where nobody looks at each other, and trust me, I understand the urge to look away or laugh it off. But stay with it. Don't break the gaze. Just allow yourself to sit in those uncomfortable feelings, because after a few minutes of staying with this, the phenomenon that I described earlier will start to kick in. And when that happens, look out for any impulsive desire to resist or control it. And instead, just observe. And if you stay with it long enough, that's when the transfiguration begins. And if you make this a regular practice, it will transform the way you and your partner connect, not just during the eye gazing, but in every moment you share together. And at the end, when you're ready to close the practice, don't just snap out of it. Hold each other with a hug and let the experience land. Now, what most people don't understand is that eye gazing isn't just a sitting practice, it's actually a gateway into tantric lovemaking, and there's a reason it feels so powerful. Prolonged eye contact actually triggers oxytocin, the bonding hormone in your body. So you're not just seeing each other differently, you're literally bonding on a chemical level. Personally, I treat eye gazing as a sacred part of a tantric relationship, and starting lovemaking with eye gazing is part of what separates regular sex from tantric sex, because it takes a relationship beyond the physical and into a deeper spiritual connection. And it's amazing for deepening intimacy with your partner or someone you just met. And if you want the next step, which is to get into tantric sex positions that will turn this connection into full body orgasms, watch this video next. Blessings.